"I speak 9 languages," said the poor cleaner's son. The millionaire laughed so hard he almost fell from his chair. But 5 minutes later, his face turned white with shock. Robert Chen, a 45-year-old tech millionaire, was having lunch at his favorite expensive restaurant in downtown Seattle. His company just made another $1 million that week. Life was perfect. That's when he saw Maria, the woman who cleaned his office building every night. Maria walked into the restaurant with her 16-year-old son, Alex. They looked around nervously. This place was way too fancy for them. A simple meal here cost more than Maria made in 3 days of cleaning. "Look who's here," Robert said to his business partner, James. "It's my cleaning lady. What's she doing in a place like this?" Maria saw Robert and walked over to his table. She looked embarrassed but tried to smile. "Hello, Mr. Chen," Maria said quietly. "We're here because it's Alex's birthday. He got straight A's this year, so I wanted to take him somewhere special." Robert looked at Alex. The boy was wearing old clothes that didn't fit well. His shoes had holes in them, but his eyes were bright and smart. "Well, well," Robert said with a mean smile. "So this is the famous Alex I keep hearing about. Your mother always talks about how smart you are when she's cleaning my office." Alex stood straight and looked Robert in the eyes. "Nice to meet you, sir." "Your mother says you're some kind of genius," Robert continued. "She says you study all the time and get perfect grades. That's cute." Maria felt her cheeks turn red. She knew Robert was making fun of them. Rich people like him always thought poor kids couldn't be truly smart. "Actually," Alex said calmly, "I do study a lot. I speak 9 languages now." Robert burst out laughing. So did James. Other people in the restaurant turned to look at them. "9 languages?" Robert laughed. "Kid, I can barely speak English properly, and I went to Harvard. You're telling me a cleaner's son speaks 9 languages? That's the funniest thing I've heard all week." James wiped tears from his eyes. "Robert, your cleaning lady has quite an imagination. Maybe she watches too many movies." Maria wanted to disappear. She grabbed Alex's arm. "Come on, let's go. We shouldn't have come here." But Alex didn't move. "Which languages would you like me to prove, Mr. Chen?" Robert grinned. This was getting even funnier. "Oh, you want to prove it? Okay, let's play along. Name these 9 languages you supposedly speak." "English, Spanish, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Mandarin Chinese, Japanese, and Korean," Alex said without hesitation. "Liar," Robert said flatly. "There's no way a poor kid from the projects speaks all those languages. Do you even know what Mandarin Chinese sounds like?" Alex smiled for the first time. "Would you like me to show you?" The entire restaurant had gone quiet. Everyone was watching this strange conversation between a millionaire and a teenager. "This should be good," Robert said. "Go ahead, kid. Impress us with your fake Chinese." Alex took out his phone and called someone. He started speaking in rapid, fluent Mandarin. The conversation went on for 2 minutes. His pronunciation was perfect. His tone was natural. He sounded like a native speaker. Robert's smile slowly faded. That didn't sound fake at all. Alex hung up and looked at Robert. "That was my Chinese tutor, Mrs. Wang. She teaches at the university. She says hello." "Anyone can memorize a few phrases," Robert said, but his voice wasn't as confident anymore. "You're right," Alex agreed. "That's why I brought these." Alex pulled out a folder from his backpack. Inside were certificates from language schools, test results, and awards. All official, all real. Robert grabbed the papers. His hands were shaking slightly. These certificates were from real institutions. The test scores were incredibly high. This kid really did speak 9 languages. "How is this possible?" Robert whispered. But Alex wasn't done yet. The biggest shock was still coming. "How is this possible?" Robert asked again, staring at the certificates. Alex sat down at Robert's table without being invited. Maria tried to pull him away, but he gently shook his head. "Mr. Chen," Alex said, "can I ask you something? Why do you think poor people are stupid?" Robert felt uncomfortable. "I never said that." "You didn't have to say it. Your face said everything when my mom told you I was smart. You automatically assumed I was lying about the languages." James leaned forward. "Kid, you have to understand. It's just unusual. Most people don't speak 9 languages." "Most rich people don't either," Alex replied. "But when a rich kid speaks multiple languages, you call them gifted. When a poor kid does it, you call them liars." Robert felt his face getting hot. This teenager was making him look bad in front of everyone. "Look, Alex," Robert said, "I'm sorry if I seemed rude, but you have to admit it's surprising. How did you even learn all these languages? Language classes are expensive." Alex smiled. "You're right. They are expensive. That's why I didn't take any." "Then how did you learn them? YouTube, library books, language exchange apps, and practice with native speakers online? Everything was free." Robert couldn't believe it. "You learned 9 languages for free?" "The internet is full of free education, Mr. Chen. The only thing you need is time and motivation." "But why languages?" James asked. "Why not something else?" Alex's expression became serious. "Because I realized something when I was 12 years old. My mom works 3 jobs to pay our rent. She cleans offices at night, works at a grocery store in the morning, and cleans houses on weekends. She makes less in a month than you probably spend on lunch." Robert shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "But the thing is," Alex continued, "my mom is actually really smart. She just never had opportunities. She came to America when she was 18, pregnant with me, speaking no English. She worked minimum wage jobs to survive." Maria's eyes filled with tears. She had never heard Alex talk about their struggles like this. "So I decided," Alex said, "that I would get every opportunity I could find. And languages open doors. They connect you to different worlds, different ways of thinking." "That's very admirable," Robert said. "But what does this have to do with me?" Alex pulled out his phone again. "Mr. Chen, do you remember the big contract you lost last month? The one with the Japanese company?" Robert's face went pale. How did this kid know about that? That deal would have made his company $10 million. "How do you know about that?" Robert demanded. "Because I was there when you had the video call with them. My mom was cleaning your office. I was doing homework in the corner." Robert remembered now. Maria sometimes brought Alex to work when he had nowhere else to go. Robert never paid attention to the kid. "I watched you struggle to communicate with the Japanese executives," Alex continued. "You kept using Google Translate, but it was giving you wrong translations. You accidentally insulted their company president 3 times. Robert felt sick. That meeting had been a disaster. The Japanese company never called back. "You lost that contract because of language barriers," Alex said. "But it wasn't just that one. I've been watching your business for months while my mom cleans your office." "Watching my business?" Robert asked weakly. Alex pulled out a notebook. "You've lost at least 4 major international contracts this year because of communication problems. German clients, Chinese investors, Brazilian partners, and Korean tech companies." Robert grabbed the notebook. Alex had written detailed notes about each failed deal. He had noted exactly where the language barriers caused problems. "This is—" Robert couldn't finish his sentence. $43 million in lost business, Alex said calmly. "I did the math." The restaurant was completely silent. Everyone was listening to this incredible conversation. "You're telling me," Robert said slowly, "that a 16-year-old figured out why my company is losing money?" "Yes," Alex said, "and I can fix it." Robert laughed, but it sounded nervous. "You can fix it? How?" "By working for you." The words hung in the air like a bomb about to explode. "You want me to hire you?" Robert asked. "You're 16 years old." "Age is just a number, Mr. Chen. Results are what matter, and I can get you results." Robert looked around the restaurant. People were still staring. This was the most embarrassing conversation of his life. But it was about to get much worse. "You want me to hire a 16-year-old?" Robert asked loudly. "This is ridiculous." Other customers in the restaurant were definitely listening now. Some were even recording with their phones. Alex remained calm. "Mr. Chen, let me ask you something. What's more ridiculous? Hiring someone who can solve your problems, or losing millions of dollars because you're too proud to accept help?" Robert felt trapped. This conversation was spiraling out of control. "Look, kid," Robert said, trying to sound reasonable, "I appreciate your enthusiasm, but business is complicated. You can't just walk in and fix everything because you speak a few languages." "You're right," Alex agreed. "Speaking languages isn't enough. That's why I've been studying international business for 2 years. Alex pulled out another folder. Inside were business plans, market analysis reports, and financial projections, all written in perfect English, with sections translated into multiple languages. "What is this?" Robert asked, flipping through the pages. "A complete strategy for recovering your lost international business," Alex said. "I've identified your main problems, researched your potential clients, and created step-by-step plans for winning them back." James leaned over to look at the documents. His eyes widened. "Robert, this is actually really good." Robert snatched the papers back. He didn't want to admit it, but the analysis was brilliant. This teenager had insights that his expensive business consultants had missed. "How did you get access to my company's information?" Robert demanded. "Public records, news articles, your company website, and observation," Alex replied. "Everything I used is publicly available. I just paid attention." "This is stalking," Robert said. "No, sir. This is research. The same research you should have done before those international meetings." Maria finally spoke up. "Alex, maybe we should go. Mr. Chen doesn't seem interested." But Alex wasn't finished. "Actually, Mom, I think Mr. Chen is very interested. He's just scared." "Scared?" Robert's voice cracked. "Scared of what?" "Scared that a poor kid knows more about international business than he does." The restaurant gasped. This teenager had just directly challenged a millionaire. Robert's face turned red with anger. "You little brat! How dare you talk to me like that?" "The same way you talk to me and my mother," Alex replied calmly, "with disrespect." Robert stood up from his chair. "I don't have to listen to this nonsense." "You're right," Alex said, standing up too. "You don't have to listen, but your competitors will." Robert froze. "What do you mean?" Alex smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile anymore. "Mr. Chen, did you know that your biggest competitor, TechFlow Industries, has been trying to hire international consultants for months?" Robert's blood ran cold. TechFlow was his main rival. They had been stealing his clients all year. "So what?" Robert said, but his voice was shaking. "So I sent them a business proposal last week," Alex said casually. The words hit Robert like a punch in the stomach. "You what?" "I offered to help them win the same international contracts you've been losing. They were very interested." Robert couldn't breathe. If TechFlow got those contracts with Alex's help, it would destroy his company. "You're bluffing," Robert whispered. Alex pulled out his phone and showed Robert an email thread. It was a conversation between Alex and TechFlow's CEO. They were offering him a consulting position with a salary that would change his and his mother's lives forever. "They want to meet with me tomorrow," Alex said. "They're willing to pay me $50,000 just for my analysis of the Asian market." Robert sat back down heavily. $50,000 was more than Maria made in 2 years of cleaning. But, Alex continued, I haven't accepted their offer yet. Why not? Robert asked weakly. Because I'd rather work for you. Robert looked confused. Why would you want to work for someone who insulted you? Because I believe people can change, Alex said, and because my mom has been loyal to your company for 3 years. She deserves better than minimum wage. The pieces were falling into place. This wasn't just about Alex proving he was smart. This was about him fighting for his family. What do you want? Robert asked. Alex sat back down and pulled out a contract he had prepared. I want you to hire me as your international business consultant, part-time, so I can still go to school. $25,000 a year to start. Robert's mouth fell open. $25,000? You're 16. And I want you to promote my mother to office manager with a proper salary and benefits. That's impossible. Alex checked his watch. TechFlow is expecting my answer in 2 hours. What's your decision? Robert realized he was trapped. If he said no, Alex would help his biggest competitor destroy his business. If he said yes, he'd be admitting that a poor teenager was smarter than him. But the choice was obvious. The question was, would his pride let him make the smart decision? Robert stared at the contract in his hands. His business partner, James, was reading over his shoulder, and his eyes were wide with shock. Robert, James whispered, this contract is actually pretty reasonable. And if this kid can really recover, those lost deals... Shut up, James, Robert snapped, but his mind was racing. $43 million in lost business. His company had been struggling for months. His investors were getting worried. Alex checked his watch again. 1 hour and 50 minutes until TechFlow expects my answer. Robert looked around the restaurant. Everyone was still watching. Some people were definitely recording this with their phones. If he rejected Alex's offer and the story got out, he'd look like a fool. But if he accepted, he'd be hiring a 16-year-old as a consultant. This is crazy, Robert muttered. What's crazy, Alex said, is throwing away an opportunity. Because you care more about your ego than your business. Maria touched her son's arm. Alex, maybe we're pushing too hard. No, Mom, Alex said firmly. We've been pushed around our whole lives. It's time to push back. Robert studied the contract again. The terms were actually fair. Alex was asking for a fraction of what professional consultants charged, and if he could really recover even half of those lost contracts? How do I know you can deliver what you promise? Robert asked. Alex smiled. Give me one test. Pick your most difficult international client, the one you think is impossible to win back. Give me 1 week to fix it. Robert thought about it. There was one client that had been driving him crazy for months. A German automotive company that had walked away from a $20 million deal because of a series of miscommunications. Okay, Robert said. There's a German company called Brenner Motors. We almost had a deal with them, but it fell apart. Their CEO, Klaus Brenner, refuses to take my calls now. What went wrong? Alex asked, pulling out a notepad. Robert felt embarrassed, remembering, I kept mispronouncing his name in our video calls. Then I accidentally called their cars cheap when I meant to say affordable. They thought I was insulting their brand. Alex nodded. Cultural misunderstanding. Very common. What's the CEO's background? He's old-fashioned, traditional, very formal. He built the company with his father. Alex wrote notes rapidly. Okay, give me his contact information. I'll have an answer for you by this time next week. You're going to call Klaus Brenner? Robert asked. He hates Americans now. He doesn't hate Americans, Alex corrected. He hates being disrespected. There's a difference. Robert pulled out his phone and sent Alex the contact information. Fine. But when this fails, you can't blame me. And when it succeeds, Alex said, you'll sign this contract and give my mother the promotion she deserves. They shook hands. Robert still thought this was crazy, but he was curious to see what would happen. 1 week later, Robert was sitting in his office when his assistant rushed in. "Mr. Chen," she said excitedly, "Klaus Brenner is on the phone. He wants to restart the deal negotiations." Robert nearly fell out of his chair. "Klaus Brenner? Are you sure?" "He specifically asked to speak with you about the Brenner Motors partnership. He sounds very friendly." Robert grabbed the phone with shaking hands. "Klaus, how are you, my friend?" "Robert," Klaus's voice was warm and enthusiastic. "I must apologize for my behavior last month. I had a wonderful conversation with your young consultant, Alex. He explained everything so clearly. Such a brilliant young man." Robert's mouth fell open. Alex had actually done it. "The contract he prepared is excellent," Klaus continued. "Much better than what we discussed before. And his presentation in German was flawless. Where did you find this boy genius?" He found me," Robert stammered. "Well, you are very lucky. We want to move forward with the full $20 million partnership. Can we schedule a meeting for next week?" After Robert hung up, he just sat there in shock. Alex had not only fixed the relationship with Brenner Motors, he had improved the original deal. His assistant poked her head in. "Mr. Chen, Alex is here to see you. Should I send him in?" Alex walked in with a big smile. "Hello, Mr. Chen. Did you get a call from Klaus Brenner?" "How did you do it?" Robert asked in amazement. Alex sat down. "First, I researched German business culture. Then I learned about Klaus personally. His father started the company in 1952. Family legacy is very important to him." "Okay, but how did you get him to call me back?" "I made a video presentation in perfect German, explaining your company's values and how much you respect Brenner Motors' history. I apologized for the cultural misunderstandings and showed him how the partnership could honor his father's legacy while growing the business." Robert shook his head in disbelief. "And he believed you?" "He believed me because I took time to understand what mattered to him. That's what good business is about." Robert reached into his desk and pulled out Alex's contract. "Where do I sign?" As Robert signed the papers, he felt something changing inside him. This wasn't just about hiring Alex. It was about admitting he had been wrong about everything. "Alex," Robert said, "I owe you an apology, and I owe your mother an even bigger one." At that moment, Maria walked into the office. She was carrying her cleaning supplies, ready for her evening shift. "Maria," Robert said, standing up, "please sit down. We need to talk." The transformation was just beginning. 6 months later, Robert Chen was sitting in the same fancy restaurant where this whole story began, but this time, he wasn't alone with just his business partner. Alex and Maria were sitting at his table as equals, not as a cleaning lady and her son. Maria looked completely different. She was wearing a professional business suit and carrying a tablet instead of cleaning supplies. She was now the office manager at Chen Technologies, making more money than she had ever dreamed possible. Alex looked older and more confident. He was still only 16, but he spoke with the authority of someone who had already changed his family's life forever. "So," James said, cutting into his steak, "tell me the final numbers, Alex. How much business did you bring in this year?" Alex pulled out his tablet and scrolled through the data. $87 million in new contracts. We recovered 4 of the major deals Mr. Chen had lost, and we secured 12 new international partnerships. Robert still couldn't believe it sometimes. In 6 months, Alex had transformed his struggling company into the most successful international consulting firm in Seattle. "And the languages?" James asked. "Are you still studying new ones?" Alex laughed. Actually, I'm up to 11 now. I added Arabic and Russian. The Middle Eastern market is growing fast. 11 languages at 16 years old, Robert said, shaking his head. When I was 16, I could barely speak one language properly. Maria smiled proudly at her son. He's still the same Alex, though. He still does his homework every night and helps me with the grocery shopping. Speaking of homework, Robert said, how are your college applications going? Alex's face lit up. Harvard, MIT, and Stanford all sent acceptance letters, with full scholarships. Robert felt a warm feeling in his chest. That's incredible! Which one will you choose? Actually, Alex said, I'm thinking about taking a gap year first. I want to keep working with the company and save money for Mom. Alex, Maria said firmly, you are going to college. We've talked about this. Robert held up his hand. What if I told you there was a way to do both? Alex and Maria looked at him curiously. I've been talking to the business school at Harvard, Robert explained. They have a special program for exceptional students. You could study part-time while continuing to work as our chief international consultant. Alex's eyes widened. Chief consultant? With a salary to match, Robert said. $100,000 a year, plus bonuses based on the contracts you secure. Maria gasped. $100,000? But he's still just a student. He's not just a student, Maria. He's the smartest business mind I've ever worked with. Age doesn't matter when you're dealing with that level of talent. Alex was quiet for a moment, processing the offer. What about Mom's position? Robert smiled. Your mother is getting promoted too. Vice President of Operations. She'll be managing 3 departments and overseeing our expansion into Latin American markets. Maria started crying. Happy tears. A year ago, she was cleaning offices. For minimum wage. Now she was going to be a vice president at a successful company. I can't believe this is real, Maria whispered. It's real because Alex made it real, Robert said. He didn't wait for someone to give him opportunities. He created his own opportunities. James raised his glass. A toast to Alex and Maria, the people who taught us that talent has nothing to do with money or background. As they clinked glasses, Robert reflected on how much his life had changed. Not just his business, but his entire way of thinking about people and success. Alex, Robert said, can I ask you something personal? Sure. What was the hardest part of this whole journey? Alex thought carefully before answering. The hardest part wasn't learning the languages or studying business. It was believing I deserved a chance. What do you mean? When you're poor, everyone treats you like you're not as good as rich kids. Teachers expect less from you. Other kids make fun of your clothes. Adults look right through you like you don't exist. Maria nodded. It's true. People see the cleaning uniform, and they think that's all you are. But I realized, Alex continued, that the only person who can limit your potential is yourself. Other people's opinions don't have to become your reality. Robert felt ashamed remembering how he had treated Alex and Maria that first day. I was one of those people who judged you unfairly. Yes, Alex said simply, but you changed. That's what matters. What would you tell other young people in your situation? James asked. Alex smiled. I'd tell them that knowledge is the one thing nobody can take away from you. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, if you're willing to learn, you can change your life. And I'd tell them, Maria added, to never be ashamed of where they come from. Your background doesn't define your future. Robert looked around the restaurant. It was the same place where he had laughed at Alex 6 months ago, but everything was different now. You know what's funny? Robert said. I used to think success was about having money and looking down on other people. Now I realize that real success is about lifting other people up. Alex nodded. Alex My goal was never to become rich, Mr. Chen. My goal was to prove that poor kids are just as smart as rich kids. We just need someone to give us a chance. Well, Robert said, you've definitely proven that. And now you're helping me give chances to other kids, too. Robert was referring to the scholarship program they had started together. The Alex Johnson Foundation now provided language learning resources and business education to low-income students across Seattle. As they finished dinner and prepared to leave, Robert felt grateful for the day Alex had challenged him in this restaurant. It had been embarrassing and humbling, but it had also been the best thing that ever happened to his business and his soul. Same time next week? Robert asked as they walked to their cars. Actually, Alex said with a grin, next week we're meeting the Korean investors. I hope your Korean is getting better. Robert laughed. It's terrible. But that's why I have you. That's why we have each other, Alex corrected. Partners. As Robert drove home that night, he thought about the lesson Alex had taught him. Never judge people by their circumstances. Judge them by their character, their determination, and their dreams. The poor cleaner's son, who spoke 9 languages, had become so much more than a viral story. He had become proof that in America, if you're willing to work hard and never give up, anything is still possible. And sometimes, the person who changes your life forever is the one you least expect.